We know that at about 2:15 in the morning, last Tuesday, the 7th of January 2025, they were last seen in and around this area of Aberdeen, crossing the Victoria Bridge towards Torry, where they entered a footpath adjacent to the River Dee, and inquiries to date have failed to trace them since that time. Concerns were raised regarding their whereabouts, and a significant police inquiry has been ongoing since that time, including extensive searches in and around the area of the river here, but also further afield as we try and understand what has happened to the sisters. We're in contact regularly with their family home in Hungary, who are extremely concerned about their whereabouts, extremely supportive of police inquiries, and extremely keen to find out exactly what's happened. The family, along with the police, are really keen to hear from anyone in the Aberdeen area who may have been in and around the area of the Victoria Bridge or Torry during the early hours of Tuesday, the 7th of January. To that end, we had officers deployed in the early hours of this morning, exactly 1 week since their disappearance, who were speaking with members of the public in an attempt to gain further information with regards to what may have happened to them. A significant police inquiry remains ongoing, as will be evidenced by activity on the river today and in the days to come. We're also continuing a number of land-based inquiries in and around the Torry area, whilst keeping an open mind in terms of what exactly has happened. Appreciate the support of the media in sharing our appeals for information and for support from the public, and we really appreciate the input that we've had from the public so far. But again, I would reiterate that appeal. If you were in and around this area during the early hours of Tuesday the 7th of January, whether you think you have relevant information or not, please contact us, have a conversation with us, and help us to piece together exactly what has happened. I'm happy to take questions from the attending media. What I could say, that all our inquiries to date don't provide any evidence that there's been criminality involved in the disappearance of the sisters. There's obviously significant concern when people are unaccounted for such a significant period of time, but extensive police inquiries to date have not identified any suspicious circumstances.
Do you have any idea why they came to this area? Any explanation at all?
We don't. We are carrying out significant inquiries to try and understand what the lifestyle and the movements of the sisters was, but from information from friends and family, them being out in Aberdeen at that time in the morning is very unusual. We've no reason to think that they were socialising in the city prior to attending in this area. It looks very much as if they've attended here from their home address or the area of their home address, but we're working hard to try and understand that.
Who was it that raised the alarm?
The person raising the alarm was the person from whom they rent their flat, and that person had been in contact with the sisters in the days prior in the context of the relationship of landlord and tenant, and the alarm was raised by that person, and a police inquiry stood up immediately thereafter.
What have you gleaned from the last week?
An enormous amount of information in terms of what goes on in this area at that time in the morning. It's an area of heavy industry, and I think we've got good evidence to suggest that there were people walking about, there were people driving about, who will hopefully be able to help us build some context around about what has happened here. What we've also gleaned is information from an extensive CCTV trawl, from which we've been able to piece together the sisters' movements through Aberdeen and ultimately to this area of Aberdeen where that contact for the moment has dropped off. But inquiries continue to try and understand what's happened thereafter.
Do you have a working hypothesis at the moment about what might have happened to them, or are you pursuing lots of different...
Yeah, we have a number of hypotheses, and we're remaining really open-minded in terms of what may have happened. But one of the main theories is that for some reason the sisters have entered the water here, and that's why a lot of the search activity that you'll have seen over the last few days has been focused in and around the river. We don't know that for certain. What we do know is that at the moment CCTV provides that they entered a footpath adjacent to the River Dee, and we have no trace of them leaving that footpath yet. but inquiries continue to see if we can extend that timeline further.
Did they appear to have anything with them? Say there were someone crazy like going for a late night swim. Did they appear to have anything with them that would back that up?
We've no reason to think from the way they were dressed or the way they were acting that they intended to enter the river in the means that you've described there. The CCTV image, I think, has been shared of the most recent sighting of the sisters. They are dressed appropriately for the weather, but there is nothing else in their dress that causes us concern.
So is there a chance that this has been some tragic accident?
As I say, we remain open-minded in terms of what exactly has happened, but we're not ruling anything out.
Has there been any interaction in the days or weeks
At the moment, there's no reason to think that. It is a line of inquiry, but we've carried out extensive inquiries in terms of the state of mind that the sisters may have been in, and the sort of lifestyle, movements, contact with friends, contact with family, and everything that we have gleaned so far suggests that they were happily living their life in Aberdeen, working, socialising with friends, and keeping in touch with family in an entirely normal manner.
How long had they been missing before the alarm was raised by the landlords?
It was only a matter of hours. We think that, we know that the last sighting of them was in the early hours of the morning, and by lunchtime that day we'd received a call from the landlord.
Just to be clear, does the landlord live with them? Or it seems unusual that a landlord would raise suspicions or questions about locations of tenants hours after they disappeared at 2 o'clock in the morning. But that doesn't make sense, does it?
No, what we do know is that in the days preceding, the sisters had indicated to the landlord that they intended to leave their tenancy, and the landlords carried out inquiries at the address, which has led them to be concerned about the whereabouts of the sisters, specifically due to some materials, personal possessions, etc., that had been left within the address. No, there's nothing specific within the property to suggest that they had either an intention to disappear or an intention to do themselves harm. What there was within the property are a number of personal possessions, which are now in the possession of the police, and those are things that we can interrogate to try and glean further information in relation to the wider circumstances, but nothing to explicitly suggest that they intended either to leave the area immediately or that they had any intent to do themselves harm.
Has the landlord been interviewed as a witness?
Yes.
Or a suspect?
No, there are no suspects. This is not a criminal inquiry. This is a missing person inquiry.
Do they live alone?
They live together in that tenancy, but there were no further tenants in the flat.
They hadn't left any personal belongings behind versus mobile phones, as far as you're aware, they hadn't those on there?
There were some personal possessions in the flat, including mobile phones. We are working to interrogate the information on them. One, to understand how recent and relevant they are. You understand, in terms of that sort of retention of devices. So we're working hard to understand that. But we do believe that they had at least one mobile phone in their possession at the time in which they were around this area at the time of last sighting.
In terms of the journey that they made to get here, did they pass along busy streets like Union Street, for example? Are you able to establish what route they took?
Yeah, we know that from their home address they've taken essentially a direct walking route through the city centre to ultimately end up here at about 12 minutes past 2 in the morning. They haven't stopped at any premises. We don't think they're in the company of anyone else. They seem to have left their home address or the vicinity of their home address and walked in a direct line to this location here.
So did one of them leave behind a mobile phone then? Just one of them had one with them?
No, I can't say that with any degree of certainty. What I can say with a degree of certainty is that they were in possession of a mobile phone and that there were mobile phones in the flat. What we'll have to work to try and understand is whether the phones in the flat are recent and relevant. And given security around about mobile telephones and the fact that people tend not to dispose of old devices, there's work to do to understand the provenance of those devices.
Isn't your working assumption that they are now dead?
Our working assumption is that we are very concerned about their whereabouts, and we are now a week on. We're not ruling anything in or out, we're remaining open-minded, but one of our strong theories has to be that for some reason they've entered the water, and that's why so much of our search activity focuses in that area. But that hasn't meant that we have taken our focus away from different elements of the inquiry, so we're still carrying out a wider CCTV trawl to understand if they may have escaped the area by some means that we are so far unaware of. But at the moment, our best hypothesis is that they've gone into the footpath at the side of the river here and that they haven't emerged, and we are trying to understand exactly what has happened once they've entered that area.
But the CCTV you've examined, did they appear to be in a normal state of mind, or did they look distressed, or is there anything out of the ordinary?
No, from the CCTV, they seem to walk a direct line here. There's nothing in either their demeanour or their interaction with each other or their interaction with anyone else that suggests that they were in distress or to give us any sort of concern for their health at that time.
The police mentioned that CCTV trawl. Are there any new pictures you've been able to glean from that, from when they first went missing, for example, from the businesses or from the garages?
There's nothing that extends beyond the point last seen, which is essentially here where we're standing at just the back of 2 in the morning on Tuesday the 7th. But what we have obtained is a degree of further footage of their movements through the city centre up to this point. And we're interrogating that as part of the wider inquiry. But the trawl does extend beyond the point last seen, and our intention is to rule in or rule out the fact that they've left this area by means as yet unknown to us.
Has there been any activity on their banks?
It's something that we're looking at pretty constantly. There is nothing to indicate financial transactions since the time that they were last seen.
The searches of the water that you've carried out so far, have they gleaned anything at all?
No, we haven't found any personal possessions. We haven't found anything to indicate that they've been within the water, but that remains one of our working theories. Sorry.
Is there anything to suggest that they've taken this route before, or they've been out at that time of night previously?
That's a focus of the inquiry that's being developed at the moment. As we stand here, no. Certainly in the days immediately prior, there's nothing from interaction with friends or interaction with family that would suggest that being on foot in this area or out in Aberdeen at that time in the morning at all is normal behaviour for them. But what we are doing is extending our inquiries just to try and understand whether that was maybe something, whether they maybe had a reason to be here that we're currently unaware of.
Have you been able to get any information relating to their mobile activity, like mobile phone accounts, texts, WhatsApps?
We're working with the appropriate specialists to try and understand what use that there's been on the phones, but there is nothing that we have found that either causes us concern in that regard or anything that brings our inquiries beyond the point last seen here.
So have you got texts, have you found mobile activity in the run up to them going missing? It's a text from 1:30, say, or 1 o'clock.
It's a line of inquiry that we'll follow. I mean, you'll understand people are busy on their mobile telephones at all times. We have a number of devices from the flat that we will interrogate to try and understand who they've been in contact with. But what we don't have, what I can say is we don't have detail of either text or telephone contact with people in the run-up to their disappearance that provides any further context or information as to what's happened.
And is there a chance that the working phones have gone into the water then?
As I say, we're not ruling anything out, but one of our theories has to be that they've entered this water in possession of any items they had with them at that time. But we're not ruling out any other possibilities.
Are their family planning to come to Aberdeen?
Not at the moment. We're in contact with their family regularly. Their family are hugely appreciative of the police inquiries. They're hugely appreciative of the support that the inquiries had in the media. They're hugely appreciative of the support that they've had from people in Aberdeen. And they're just really, really worried about what's happened. We'll update them daily, and it may be the case that they decide to come to Aberdeen, but at the moment, no. Yeah, I think what we have is some of the CCTV coverage of this area also picks up audio, and as part of our trawl, we do have an audio feed from the area around the material time, and what it indicates is that there are people and vehicles in and around the area. It's very difficult without the context of pictures to interpret sounds from an area such as this. It's really busy just now, which paints a false picture of what it looks and feels like at the back of 2 in the morning, but this is a busy area generally. There's a lot of heavy industry, there's a lot of foot traffic over the bridge in particular, so in terms of that audio feed, there are a lot of noises that we are trying to interpret, but at the moment we don't have any evidence that suggests that any of that can be attributed to the missing sisters. But it's not something that we're ruling out. It's something that we're working on constantly.
Just to return to the tenancy, had they indicated at all that they also wish to leave Aberdeen?
No, nothing further. Just that they intended to leave that flat at some point.
And what kind of time scale was that then?
It was pretty open-ended, but
Okay.
you know, obviously explicit enough that the landlady felt like inquiry needed to be made just to further detail that.
Had there been a falling out with the landlord?
No, not that we believe.
Have you had anything from their employer as well?
And we've been in touch with employers. We've spoken to workmates. There's nothing that's coming out of that interaction that causes us any concern. Like I said at the beginning, everything suggests that Eliza and Henrietta were well settled in Aberdeen. They'd been here for a number of years. They were, in secure and happy employment. They had a social life here. They had friends here, and this is just entirely out of character, both in terms of everything we found in the police inquiry, but also in terms of what we're being told by their family and by their friends. And if I could just take the opportunity again to extend that appeal to anyone who may have information that might assist us in taking this inquiry further, please contact Police Scotland. If you are in and around this area during the early hours of Tuesday, the 7th of January, whether you think you have relevant information or not, we would like to speak to you because we're trying to build up a picture of who was in and around the area and where we might glean further evidence for further information as we try and piece together the circumstances.
What is the likelihood that they're still alive?
I don't want to speculate on likelihood. What I would say again is that we're remaining open-minded. We have a theory which involves them having entered the water as a potential, but we can't rule out the fact that the timeline actually extends beyond that point, and we just haven't established that through inquiries. But we will continue with the energy, with the resource, with the scrutiny around about the inquiry, because we've got a duty to tell Eliza and Henrietta's sisters what has happened to the best of our ability, and to kind of reassure the community of Aberdeen here that we are doing everything we can to make that happen.
Thank you.
Sorry? The majority of the searches, again, will focus on the river area. We've got air support today, so what you're likely to see is the police helicopter supporting some of the search activity out towards the mouth of the harbour there. There's also foot-based conventional inquiries ongoing with industrial units up into Torry there as we extend out that CCTV trawl and try and speak to local people to get information from them. So there will be a significant police activity in and around this area for the coming days.
Okay, thanks everyone. I think we've kind of covered a lot of ground there, so I think just conscious folk will need their kind of one-on-ones and everything as well, so we'll break off into that. But thanks everyone, it's been... Yeah, that would make sense, yeah. Yeah, it's calling for us. Yeah, ready.
We're starting with that.
Yeah, I'm going to start the media there. Yeah, this is a mystery here in Aberdeen, an investigation that is baffling detectives. A probe that is now 1 week in. We've just heard, as you can see there, the media gathering to hear from the superintendent laying out